Before the coast of Hawaii, an unbelievable event took place. A wild dolphin asked a diver for help. The reason was a fishing line that had gotten tangled around the dolphin's fin, so that it could no longer use its fin properly. Intuitively, it knew that only a human being could free it of this hindrance, and swam to the diver from the open ocean. The diving teacher, Martina Wing, was able to capture this unique incident on her camera. The native German has been living on Hawaii for many years. Her love is primarily directed to the manta rays, the giant mantas. Mrs. Wing will not only report about them in this documentation, but also about the one-of-a-kind experience with the dolphin rescue.
Mrs. Wing, you moved to Hawaii 18 years ago. What do you do there?
I started as a photographer and specialized in underwater photography. I live on the Hawaiian island called the Big Island, and there I film animals underwater.
Are these any particular animals?
Yes, I specialize in manta rays or devilfish. They're also called that, and I've also been filming dolphins for years.
Perhaps many people don't know at all what a manta ray is. Could you briefly explain the kind of animal it is?
Well, there's the stingray, and it's very, very well known. A few years ago, in 2006, there was an accident with Steve Irwin. He was called a crocodile hunter. He died from being stabbed by a stingray, and this is often confused with manta rays, which are actually very different. They belong to the same family of rays, but are much bigger and eat different food. There are really a lot of differences.
Aren't you afraid when such a 5-meter-wide animal approaches you?
Well, when you know that these animals have neither stinger nor teeth, that they can't bite, that they have nothing that could hurt a person in any way. And basically, I've never experienced an animal underwater that was aggressive or wanted to bite me. I always see it this way, that we're the ones going to them. And when there's a big shark in the water, of course, I'm a bit more cautious. But if they aren't interested in me, then they just swim by. It is we who are in their neighborhood, right? And I have no problem at all with mantas because actually they eat only plankton. They don't eat humans. The manta ray is simply a beautiful animal, and one can almost compare it with a little angel, or rather a huge angel or bird underwater. See, that swims underwater, but there's no question they're big animals.
We have a small model here. Perhaps you could explain.
Okay, I'll start with the wings, the width of these animals, because I'm talking about big animals. It's about 5 meters. Well, that's really huge. I'm 1 meter 70 centimeters, or 5 feet 6 inches, and that's quite tall. And in comparison, the stingray is about 2 meters, so manta are much bigger. They are black on top and have a bit of gray markings, and that's the tail. And underneath, on its abdomen, it's white. There's also a pigmentation, and here that's the gills, where the water comes out again. I need to explain that this in front is the mouth. With this animal, it's presently closed. Here there are 2 small fins that help to direct the water and the plankton, which the animal eats into the mouth.
So it uses it like a funnel.
Exactly, like a funnel. And here there are no stingers and no teeth that could hurt anyone. So it's really a harmless animal, and their protection in the water is to swim away. Of course, that's terrific because it's actually a very peaceful animal, no fighting or whatever people always imagine.
And this pigmentation, that can vary according to the animal.
Yeah, each animal, we identify the animals and also give them names. And what we look for is the pigmentation here between the gills. And they can be more black or less black. So this one here has no pigmentation at all. It would then be a blank. There's nothing on it. But over the years, we've identified over 240 animals, and we regularly see about 80 animals per year. And of these 80, about 30 of them come to the diving site more than 50 times. Then there are nights when we see nothing at all. It depends on whether there's plankton there or not, because actually it's a site where it's all about feeding.
You can say you dive practically every day, take photos, and actually devote yourself to researching the mantas.
Yes, my husband and I do this. I met my husband there, and I've actually, let's put it this way. An ecotourism has developed because at night these animals come to the lights. I have to explain that. When you turn on lights in the water, plankton is drawn to the lights, and the animals did this 30 years ago. There was a hotel, and they always had lights on, and the animals often lingered there. At some point, people said, the people that lived there, let's go into the water, and then the animals were there. It's really great. It's really a breathtaking experience to see these animals in water. And after that, people with boats said, let's take divers there. And that all started in the 1970s, and then over the years it grew bigger and bigger, and it developed into tourism, ecotourism, and that's really a great, great thing, because people are so cut off from nature. Someone once said that 50% of today's population live only in the city, are urbanized, and are happy when they see a pigeon or a rat or something like that, right? And of course, the mantas are a nature show and a really great, breathtaking experience. When you are in the water, which is not deep, it's only 10 meters deep, and then these animals, which are harmless and so big, and swim around you so very gracefully.
So what kind of feeling is it when these giant animals are swimming around you?
Well, there's one feeling that I have mostly. There are many feelings. There's a lot going on. You are underwater, and then in the water at night. Well, who goes in the water at night anyway? We have diving lamps, and the people have to, most of the snorkelers don't even know how to snorkel. So it's all very, very overwhelming and awesome. So it's a feeling of reverence, so that actually, first of all, you feel very small, and I'm not at all that important. The animals are here. I'm here in their world, and it's like you as a human being simply take a back seat. I'm now not the number one here, but instead the animals are the number one.
Dieser Tauchgang hat mein ganzes Leben verändert.
This dive changed my whole life. I left Germany after a sad experience. I traveled, and then I made this dive, and it was a turnaround for me of 180 degrees.
Hat mein Leben geändert. 180 Grad.
So this experience changed your life, right?
It was a new start for me. And the nice story that goes with it is that I bought a video from this man who was on the boat. He was selling them. I bought the video, and I also married the man. And that's the short version of my story.
But perhaps it's like that for many of these ecotourists, that it's an important event in their life to experience such a thing.
Yes, after the tour I talk to the people and I then offer my videos. I do the same thing that my husband did for me, because I also know how much this moved me. This dive was so very moving, and really, everyone says it's incredible. It's more than we ever could expect, and they feel very, very proud that they were able to do it. That they flew all the way to Hawaii and did this. Many people come from all over the world to Hawaii in order to see the manta rays on this coast.
I once saw a video that the snorkelers hold on to something above that looks like a raft. They hold on to it, and the divers below are on the ocean floor. And then the mantas come and swim around, and they get very close to the people.
Well, the concept is it's about 10 meters deep. We have a long sandbank there, and the divers sit on the floor. Actually, you shouldn't sit on the floor of a reef, but it's not that, it's a sandbank. And then all the divers sit there, sometimes only 30 or 40, sometimes a few more, and they have diving lamps and shine these lamps upward. And then we have the snorkelers on the surface, and we organize the group so that everyone respectively has a guide with them. That is a snorkel guide. They have lamps that have been built into the surfboard. We took a surfboard, put lamps on it, and then the people hold on to the surfboard. What we create is light from above, lights from below in the dark night, because it's after sunset. And that, I would say Hollywood can't do this. There are lights from all sides, and then there are also silvery fish coming in between. They also want to eat the plankton. What we create is a plankton-rich environment where the fish then feed. And the manta rays have learned this classic conditioning. They swim to the light, and there's something to eat, right? It is wonderful. And of course, it's a win-win. And we're also very strict with the people. Each one has a diving teacher or a snorkel guide with him. And we simply leave the 10 meters to the animals. It belongs to them. All the snorkelers have to stay above and all the divers have to stay below. And then the animals can come into these beams of light. It's almost like having an extraterrestrial experience.
Do they react to the people? Do they perceive them?
Well, they know where we are for a very simple reason, because they have electroreception. Actually, they belong to the shark family, the manta rays. They are actually all sharks, and they know where we are. They know it. That doesn't mean that they don't sometimes touch. That can happen. A wing touches a head or so. Well, that's simply then, well, yeah, about like saying, come by again. But normally, they know exactly where the snorkelers and divers are, definitely.
They swim by very close to the people.
Yes, but that totally depends on where a diver is. And then if you have a lamp, then you could, of course, hold it up here or down here. When you hold it down low, then the animal comes closer because the feet is closer. You can also hold it down here, but then we've already experienced that the animals kind of gave a little kiss. But that's, well, that's not dangerous. It's in no way dangerous.
And there's one with such markings on its belly. We know that one, and they have different characters. The one is shy.
Yes. In any case, we see animals that have this conditioning, that simply understand that here is a safe area for them, that here no one will hunt them or even touch them. And they know that here I'll find food, and so I'll just go there. And then there are animals that don't feel so good about things. They stay more in the background. And over time, I've then also observed very many animals, or have helped to condition them, because I'm there every night with the lamps, and then they come closer and closer.
They lost their fear, their shyness. You are out in the ocean nearly every night, and surely you make wonderful films of such rituals or such dances.
Since I'm outside nearly every night with the cameras, we actually have a huge archive, and then you also get photos that you wouldn't get otherwise, in the sense that when you go diving only once and maybe see a manta ray somewhere or other, that is what most people normally see. And of course, we have a lot of mantas, and then sometimes we also have had mating dances during the dives. That's more than spectacular. And as a human being, when you see that it's like a ballet, totally beautiful to watch. It's somehow like huge birds swimming through the water. It's really very, very wonderful. When we had a pregnant manta, then every month we filmed how the belly got bigger. And they were, of course, photos that actually go into research, because otherwise that's not gathered. And that's a large part of my work, which I find very, very nice. So it enthralls and inspires me.
Now, if I've understood this correctly, manta research still has a long way to go.
We can actually say that the mantas are still mysterious. Everything in the ocean is actually rather mysterious. But let's say humpbacked whales. A lot of money has been spent already, so they know more about humpbacked whales or dolphins. All people are crazy about dolphins, and so much more is known about them. It's very hard to keep mantas alive in aquariums because they always have to be swimming. In contrast to stingrays, for instance, that lie on the floor and have a certain territory. So you can have them in huge aquariums. But the mantas, there are only 4 aquariums in the world that can keep them alive, because the aquariums have to be huge, and that's why we simply don't know much. Their habitat is underwater, and we don't yet have such an access.
Are mantas in Hawaii protected?
Well, there is a law that they may not be killed. And the fishing boats, too, when they go out, they may not kill any of them. There is a law. But only in Hawaii.
Only in Hawaii? That means that worldwide they're still hunted?
Well, every country has a different law. There are mantas in all tropical waters, and as a good example, there are 2 examples. In China, the problem is the Chinese market. They wanted it as a natural remedy and think that when certain parts of mantas are pulverized, it would be a natural remedy. That's absolute nonsense, not true at all. But that meant that in a small fishing village in Indonesia, they stabbed their mantas to death. And of course, that's dramatic. Because mantas give birth only every 2 or 3 years. And then it takes 13 months until the baby is born. So to kill this animal has really huge consequences in the ecosystem. And it turned into a nice story. The Indonesian fishing village was transformed into ecotourism. They said the fishermen had to live from something or other, so instead of slaughtering the animals, they have decided to bring tourists out there. And I think it's a win-win situation for man and for animals, because we don't do anything to the animals. They just eat the plankton. And it's not like we bring the food to them. We simply make people really aware of them and how great these animals are.
And do just the mantas come when you make these night dives, or do dolphins also come?
Well, basically, first of all, we have fish every night, but then we also had 2 animals that were very special experiences. One was a Hawaiian monk seal, and he came 2, 3, 5 times. But then in 2012, we had dolphins. There's a story that touched me very deeply, and I filmed a video that went around the world. It involves a dolphin, a grown animal, that had a fishing line between its mouth and its fin. And it came to the diving site with all the lights. And then you also have to remember that divers produce all these air bubbles. And that animal appealed to us. It came right up to us. And then it was rescued from this fishing line because it stayed still in front of one of the divers. And I filmed all this, and the video is unspeakable, indescribable. You really can't. Well, let's watch it. This dive took place on the Kona coast of the Hawaiian island called the Big Island. I dive there every night with the animals and filmed there. On January 13, 2013, a female dolphin swam to the diving site, which is unusual. And as a camera woman, I have to say that I'm always out there. I had to film this. I wasn't going to wait for someone to say, go film that. Of course, I was absolutely on site when this dolphin came into my angle of vision. We had seen these animals a few times, the dolphins, and you see right away that they always come in threes. 1, 2, and then comes still a third animal. I think, yeah. Then to begin, when they checked out the diving site and, well, then there were fish in the midst of the water which also eat plankton, and the dolphins thought, what's that? Can you eat that, or is that something too stressful for me? What kind of animals are they? Here you can see the fish nicely that are in the midst of the water, and the dolphins then grabbed a few and ate them. But that was just some unusual moments that the dolphins were there. They were there for perhaps only 1 or 2 minutes, and then they swam away again. Of course, that was also a film, and what's very special that you film dolphins underwater, how they also jump, right? And then there's the snorkelers up there, and then you also see how mantas with dolphins, they simply say, oh my goodness, what's going on here? So that they do nothing at all for the moment. And you have to remember this animal that has a white spot behind its eye. We'll see that again right away. And now we're on January 13. And this dive, we had a really great dive with 12 mantas. And you can see the lights up above from the snorkelers and the air bubbles from the animals. That took place on January 11, 2013. Well, then I saw this animal, how it swam in, and I wondered, where are the other 2? Because they always come in threes. And it moved very slowly, and that was already very strange. I thought something is the matter with it. But where we're very strict is that we don't touch the animals. We don't touch the mantas, and definitely not the dolphins. And here is my friend, that's Jason, a diving teacher. He swims somewhat closer and takes a look. But the animal acted as though it had something on its side. We really didn't know what it wanted from us. And Jason stayed very passive and then swam away again. And I just simply filmed. I simply wondered and filmed and let the camera keep rolling. You don't just stop, right? It simply keeps on going, yes, and for once the mantas didn't matter at all. They were in the background eating their plankton. Then the animal swam away from me, and I thought, I won't catch up, so I'll just wait and see. Then I also switched off the camera and for 15 seconds filmed something else. I looked to the right, and there comes the dolphin again approaching me. And then, oh yeah. From its body language, I thought, what's going on here? And then it swam toward the other bright lights, and that's also in the camera. And this man, with whom I've been working for a long time underwater on the diving site, saw the fishing line. You can also see it a bit here, a line hanging on the fin. And then, of course, I was totally perplexed because the animal stayed so calm. And things now developed more and more. You now see this in the next film for 3 or 4 minutes. The dolphin keeps still and wants to be helped. And that's now one of the greatest situations. The man told me he needed some scissors, see, and turned away a bit. And the animal simply stayed there and waited. Of course, you can now see how he turns away, and the dolphin says, no, you stay here, as if it were a trained animal. But this is now a wild animal, and actually it's incredible that it knows exactly where the solution is for its problem. And we really have to say that we were truly lucky that it went to that diver, because he also had a kind of scissors with him underwater, and he then started to cut the line away. See it? And then he was also allowed to take hold of it with no problem at all. Of course, I was directly behind them. I didn't stop filming at all, stayed very close. And the animal, as if it had also known it should stay near me, that we somehow stay together, because as soon as it swims out into the darkness, the diver would no longer be able to see anything. And of course, I lit up everything with my lamps. And now comes a very nice scene again, where the fin is freed. See it? How it then opened up, and the animal, oh yes, that's good, that's how we want it. And then the diver looked again, and there was still a very small hook in it. But I think that at this point the dolphin thought, my fin is free again, that's good. And then it swam upward and first took some air. You really have to stay down to earth here and say the animal was simply stressed. It was totally stressed, and then it was rescued. And then comes the great surprise. It goes to the surface, breathes, and then comes back to the same diver. Then my friend Jason came back into the picture, and the other rescue diver was also there again, and he let the animal come so close again and tried to get the last hook out. That's now Masa, a Japanese diving teacher out here, and Jason comes back into the picture soon and also tries it. It's really incredible how still it stays. That normally doesn't happen at all, that a wild animal says, help me, help me. So now Jason comes in too, and it holds still again. It also turns itself around. But Jason didn't, well, he wanted to cut it away again, but then the dolphin said, no, that was not enough help. Many thanks. Goodbye. And then it swam away. That was a total of 7 minutes in a rescue operation, and, well, yeah. And then we wondered if the animal would come again. And we also gave it a name. We called it Notch. Earlier I mentioned the white field behind the eye. And we had seen this animal already a few times before, and then we rescued it. And now the question was, is everything now okay for it? And 14 months later we saw it again. It was not merely seeing it again, it was an incredible experience. We were way out. Here you can also see the proof that it's the same animal. We were in the water with 5 people, and here you see how blue the water is. There was no reef there. We were 2 or 3 miles away from the coast, and the dolphin made such sounds very loudly and swam around the people. And there comes this situation. It swims deep down and makes such turnings, twisting around. We've never seen that before. And I've been in the water with dolphins many, many times. It twists, goes down deep, and then it comes up again, still twisting, goes up for air, and is directly by the people again. We can interpret this differently, that it was really glad to see people. But this, well, the actual reason that he had was perhaps that we disturbed him a bit. He was actually mating, performing his courtship display. There are 2 males and a female, and when you see this, it's so gentle how this animal lifts up the female, and actually, we had experienced the mating dance. And we can really say that the rescue was a total success, for he can now continue to mate and put little dolphins into the world. That was more than breathtaking, and it was meant to be that we see him again. So, really, a wonderful experience.
What actually is the intention of your work?
Well, what really fulfills me is that I bring people back to nature again. And of course, where I work is a paradise. It's very hard work, but I'm always with people who want to go back to nature. And then it's such a spectacular, breathtaking experience to go into the water, whether it's now with dolphins or now particularly in the water with the mantas at night. The people really get another attitude. It's a change of awareness that man is simply not number one on this planet. It's very clear that we human beings also have to take a step back. And in my work, I have the possibility to communicate or not with people. also to show. It's actually true that it touches them so much that they change their opinion. And that's very difficult with people today. We all have our opinions. This is how it should be. And that's a great thing that fulfills me very much. All animals are living beings. They also have souls. I also want to speak for the animals. That's very important to me. Considering where I come from and where I grew up, I never would have thought I would want to speak so passionately for the animals. And so many people actually go the wrong way.
Mrs. Wing, do you see a chance for humankind on this planet?
I think man is simply, well, most people see it this way. The planet is here for me. The planet is for the human beings. The earth is here for human beings. And I think that this was not the original idea, that one put so many animals on the planet or developed them. And it's very clear that harmony must follow here. When you now think about what we eat as human beings, there are already many movements that also make the following clear. 20 or 30 years ago, one ate meat once a week, and that was totally sufficient. And now it's 7 days a week, morning, noon, and evening, that we consume meat in some form or other. That has to change. The tendency has to very clearly come that less meat is consumed. You have to think about the fact that things are so complex, also with the global warming and all the carbon dioxide and methane emitted by this factory farming, etc., etc. It's very complex. But as we now are doing things, it won't work. The game is over. So we can really say this, and we have to really find solutions, and not only think up solutions, but also implement them and follow through with them. And I think that the greatest thing that we have to do, and basically we are doing this now, is to inform people. We Germans naturally grew up more with the concept of sustainability. We've always had this topic. I also studied engineering in order to protect the environment. And on the whole, I now see with my work, more and more Americans, they're getting it. There are limits. Sustainability must take place. The question now is how long we need for this, because we're already in a race. Because many animals will die out during the next 20 years if we don't really get going. 20 years ago, we said, we'll see in 20 years. Now we actually can no longer say we'll see in 20 years, because in 20 years, 50% of these animal species will have already died out. And I hope that more and more people simply get it and make efforts. I think that most people do not make enough effort. It's still, man is the most important being on the planet. But that's certainly not so. The earth can exist without us. Nature can also exist without us. There's no question at all.